Ernest Tubb, the Texas troubadour, member of the Country Music Hall of Fame and one of the earliest influencers of country music. This is his biggest hit, released in 1941, called I'm Walking the Floor Over You. If you love old country music, I've got some for you today. Here we go. All right, Ernest Tubb. Now, if you've ever been to Broadway in Nashville, downtown Broadway, you'll recognize the Ernest Tubb record shop. It sits, like I said, just about a block below the Ryman Auditorium. And there is a lot of history in that Ernest Tubb record shop. I'll talk about that some after this video that we're going to watch. From his greatest hit, it is his career-defining hit, I'm Walking the Floor Over You. Let's just get into it. If you want to stay around and learn more about the Ernest Tubb record shop, we'll talk about that right after this video. But before we do, if you would like and subscribe, especially if you don't mind, hit that subscribe button. That would be amazing. I would appreciate it. Let's go get after some of this classic country.
We'd like to introduce a man who has become a legend in his own time. The Texas troubadour, Ernest Tubb.
I'm walking the floor over you. I can't sleep a wink, that is true. I'm hoping and I'm praying as my heart breaks right through.
Let me stop just for a second. Do y'all ever, if you've heard your parents or your grandparents ever say country and western? My dad was born late 50s, and every time he talks about country music, he still calls it country and western. And I've always thought, why in the world do people call it country and western music? You know, why is it called country and western music? Take a look. It's because when country music first started, there was a great influence from Southwest artists, especially from Texas, and they sang western music like this, and they dressed up like cowboys like this, and they sang cowboy songs. Your Gene Autry's and people like that. That's why it was called country and western music. Of course, we've gotten far, far away from that in mainstream country, but if you've ever asked yourself that question, here's a great example of why that is.
Walking the floor over you. You left me and you went away. You said that you'd be back in just a day. You broke in your promise and you left me here alone. I don't know why you did, dear, but I do know that you're gone. I'm walking the floor over you.
I think that crackling's coming through the video.
I can't sleep a wink, that is true. I'm hoping and I'm praying as my heart breaks right in two. Walking the floor over you. Oh, buddy, lay on now.
There they go.
Now someday you may be lonesome too. Walking the floor is good for you. Just keep right on walking and it won't hurt you to cry. Remember that I love you and I will the day I die. I'm walking the floor over you. I can't sleep a wink, that is true. I'm hoping and I'm praying as my heart breaks right in two. Walking the floor over you.
There we go. There we go. How about that? Now that's country music history. Even that song, written, or he was recording it in 1961, was 20 years old then. Was 20 years old then. The Texas Troubadour. Now you'll find that, especially again, people from Texas were greatly influenced by these cowboy singers. People like Willie Nelson, people like Waylon Jennings, people like that. When you read their biographies, talk about these cowboy singers and how when they were young kids, that's who they saw on the video screens at the movie theater. That's who they heard on the radio on WSM when they gathered around Saturday night and listened to the Grand Ole Opry. They idolize these cowboy singers. And so a lot of these modern singers we know of today that were born back in the, I don't know, the 40s and 50s and were big in the 60s, 70s, the classic singers we even look back to today, idolize people like Ernest Tubb. Now, I do know that Ernest Tubb is a member of the Country Music Hall of Fame. He was let's learn a little bit more about him. He was the first singer to record a hit version of Blue Christmas, a song more commonly associated with Elvis Presley. Well, right there. We got to go listen to Ernest Tubb do Blue Christmas. I've got to add it to my list. How about that? I had no idea. He recorded duets with then up-and-coming Loretta Lynn in the 60s, including their hit Sweet Thing, and of course is a member of the Country Music Hall of Fame. Now, I want to talk specifically about the Ernest Tubb Record Shop. Okay, this is what I wanted to talk about. He continued to host the Midnight Jamboree radio program a few blocks away from the Opry. That Midnight Jamboree program would come on after the Grand Ole Opry. So you would have the main performers singing at the Ryman Auditorium, the Grand Ole Opry being broadcast on WSM across the country. And then Ernest Tubb, from what I've read, was great for getting these up-and-comer, like we just read about Loretta Lynn. Great about getting these up-and-coming artists to come appear on the Midnight Jamboree. Maybe they hadn't gotten their big break on the Grand Ole Opry yet, but they could come sing on the Midnight Jamboree. It was kind of, I don't know, it's kind of like the late night and then the late night show. You kind of see what I'm saying. So you kind of worked your way up. And Ernest Tubb was known for helping these up-and-coming artists grow. He also opened the Ernest Tubb Record Shop, which you'll thankfully still see on Broadway. And they were one of the first record shops, I think maybe the first record shop in all of Nashville that would actually mail out the records as they were ordered. And if they were broken, which happened quite a bit, if the records are broken, you got a free return. So you'd send it back and then he'd send you another one. And they were the first record shop in Nashville, especially country music oriented record shop to ship country records all across the world or all across the nation. So these things, when we go watch these videos of 1941, these old guys with the cowboy hats and suits, you know, some people kind of giggle at that. And there's a certain amount of humor to it because we're looking at history 80 years away or behind us. But we have to be cognizant of how back then they were laying the foundation to what we enjoy today. But eventually you got to get back into your history and be thankful for the people that did the work to get us where we are today. And I think that applies in all walks of life and also country music history. That is my soapbox. I will now step down and ask you to like and subscribe. If I haven't run you off yet, I appreciate it. Like and subscribe. We'll continue to do old country music here. And in the video description below, there is a link to Patreon if you would like to check that out. That's a lot of talking. I'm done. Y'all take care.